A question you might ask yourself is, how are you going to be in the world and not of it? That's a pretty familiar phrase that people have thought about, and it's a very practical question because pretty much every square foot of land on the planet that's habitable has been has somebody that owns it. So unless you want to go live in the middle of the forest in someplace out in the middle of nowhere, you're going to have to conform to society, and the way the general consensus for whatever country you want to live in. Some countries are maybe a little more compassionate than others, such as some countries have universal health care, and other countries like this country, like the United States, don't have that yet. There's an effort by the current president, Obama, to create that, and we have some improvements in spite of the resistance to it by the wealthy who don't want to pay more taxes to support it, and who want to their agenda is all about more and more profits, and that mindset is not very humanitarian and doesn't care about the poor people. I think they would just assume that the poor people curl up and die and not be their problem, which and then some of them claim to be Christians. Well, that's not a very Christian mindset at all. But the question that I started with was, how can you be in this world and not of it? Which is, if you want to live in Chicago or New York City, San Francisco, a lot of people like these places, like the idea of it, but a lot of people are unhappy having to have made the compromises that it takes, to pay very high rents, such as in New York City or San Francisco. The rents are very expensive. So either you need to live collectively, several people to an apartment or a house, or you need a really high-paying job, which is a whole other thing. You have to, in order to get a really high-paying job, it's hard not to, totally buy into the majority mindset, which is not going to, it's going to limit your awareness. The majority mindset has nothing to do with higher consciousness. That is not part of its consensus. Its consensus is the five senses and and thought. And it's a consumerism awareness, and it's a social position awareness, and it's elitist, and all things that are not part of higher consciousness. Higher consciousness cannot be elitist at the same time. It cannot be selfish at the same time. It has to do with an expansion, and that expansion happens because there's an understanding of your oneness with other people. Not, other people are not just someone to be competed with or exploited or judged. Those are all ideas that will keep you in lower consciousness. Those are very contracted, limiting ways of being. But you may want to be, may want to be in higher consciousness, to be, more aware, and live in the San Francisco Bay Area. I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area for most of my life until I was, what was I? I was 46 when I moved away, and now I'm 68 this year. So it's been a while since I lived there. I moved away for practical reasons to keep my job and to be closer to my daughter. But then now my daughter has moved to the other side of the country. Now I'm on the East Coast and she's on the West Coast in Oregon. So it's hard to juggle all these things. That's beside the point. The point is, where do you want to live, and do you want to live, with the majority of the people, and if you do, either you're going to be, influenced strongly by them, or you're going to, transcend that mindset and be a helper. It's the only way that you will be able to stand living, in that kind of mindset where everybody's, pushing and shoving and competing and judging. And trying to get the best car and the best house and all that nonsense. Otherwise, if you're trying to transcend and not trying to help, then if you do transcend it all, you'll probably become depressed. You'll find yourself feeling alienated. It's the only way you're going to be able to relate to all that stuff, is either you're going to transcend it and feel alienated, or you'll transcend it and try to help it. And I strongly suggest that you try to help others. That way you'll feel fulfilled. But it's not required. You can transcend no ordinary consciousness into higher awareness and not help others. You wouldn't think that you could, but it's possible. And just keep working on perfecting yourself. Even though, some people say, well, you can't do that without helping others. Yes, you can. Sometimes, it might be better that way. It depends on, how much work you need to do on yourself. If you're pretty damaged and you try to help other people, you might be doing as much harm as good. And let's see, I think I'm going to close it for today.